What's up, bikers? I'm Robert, and this is the B1KER Bar Podcast live stream. You know, the other day, one of my patrons wrote me a letter, and maybe it wasn't even there was somebody wrote me a letter that was regarding the channel, and they started it out that way, like, "What's up, biker? Welcome to the podcast." And then they said, "It never gets old." And I realized I always say that. So now every time I start the show, because of him, I'm thinking, oh, I can't say it never gets old. I have to come up with something else to say. So here we are. Now you got a little explanation of that. Anyways, episode 114. We got James the Bike Guy. If you haven't heard of his channel, go check him out on YouTube real quick. You can hit the link and show more, or you can just listen to this episode and find all about it, right? Anyways, while you're out there surfing around the interwebs looking for something to do, swing by my Instagram and give me a follow, or my Facebook if you're over 40 or you're 17 and you have no friends except for your parents. I don't know. Anyways, that would be great. I would appreciate it if you follow this channel and you listen to these friggin' podcasts. Do me a favor, just hit subscribe. And if you're not a YouTube person, then write a review. But if it's not a 5-star review, probably not worth your time. Anyways, I haven't gone on there to check. Last week I was telling you guys, one of you guys could be the one that wrote the review in February, and I wouldn't even that would be very exciting for me. And I haven't gone to check. So if nobody did it last week, somebody could do it this week. And you would be the one that write the review. Make me feel like this 30 seconds of me making you guys hit skip on your podcast app, make it worth it. So you do it. I do the same thing at Rogan. Get rid of all the ads at the beginning. But this is the thing. Seriously, support the channel. It helps a lot. It really does. It helps my motivation to see that stuff. And if you really want to help me even more than my motivation, you can help me out on Patreon. Just swing by there, and there's a couple different little tiers. You can pick your own tier though too. It doesn't really matter. But this is the deal. Every time I've talked to people about sponsoring my channels, I'm like, man, that would be great to be like getting some good money out of this thing, and like, wow, all this time I put into it. However, I immediately start backing out of it because I really don't want to be stuck to any sponsors and sounding like that sponsor guy. So I'd rather sound like that sponsor guy that's bugging you guys to come to Patreon and sponsor me there, because it actually makes me feel better about what I'm providing is if I'm actually sponsored by you guys. And I feel like I've heard other YouTubers and I've seen other YouTubers say that at the beginning of their career, and maybe later it didn't follow through that way. I can totally understand why they would. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying that maybe right now I'm in that phase where I would like to be supported by you guys. Someday, if I have 150,000 subscribers, maybe I'll change my tune, and we can talk about that then. But until then, do me a solid. Swing by Patreon, do me a favor, and throw me a buck, throw me $5, throw me whatever you feel like is appropriate. That would be great for me. Anyways, let's go ahead and bring James back on the show. I'm gonna get him here. Here he is. Oh, I just removed him. There he is. Now I'm putting him back. How's it going, man?
It's going well, thank you.
Dude, you would think by now I actually would know what I'm doing up here, but apparently not.
Well, it's a new day every day.
Dude, 114 episodes and you still don't know what you're doing. I'm sure you do the same thing with your YouTube channel, right?
Absolutely. I can say with entire confidence, I still don't know what videos will do well and which ones are just going to straight up not even work out.
Oh yeah, no, I hear you.
I'm learning constantly.
I 100% of the time when I think I'm gonna I've knocked this one out of the park, more than likely that means it's gonna flop.
At least on my side, it usually has to do with how much effort level I put in. The greater amount of blood, sweat, and tears, the worse it'll perform.
Yeah.
But if I happen to just do something quick and throw it up, it magically works out.
Yeah, that's just the way it goes. I know whenever I've been talking to the Colorado kid lately, he's been saying that about why he enjoys doing the Instagram reels and stuff lately, because he's like, man, I put 20 minutes of work into this and I get 300,000 views. It's like, wow.
Right.
And he's like, I could put 14 hours into an edit and I get 927 views. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, that feeling of reward and feeling like somebody values your work is totally different there, I bet.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder if the channel that I'm doing right now is just like a training ground for what's going to happen in the future. You know what I mean? Like, you ever watch, I'm trying to get this. Those of you guys
Totally
watching,
out
this
of
is me
focus.
trying to get
There
that
you go.
camera to focus again.
Looks like
Those
a
of you guys are
DUI
listening,
test,
you get to hear nothing. So what was that?
I said it looks like a DUI test too.
Right? Yeah.
Reaching for your nose there.
Yeah. Those of you guys that are listening, basically I'm putting my finger right in front of the camera lens and slowly pulling it back to my face, because sometimes the autofocus on these cameras just go a little wonky, and then it just looks like you're, I don't know, smoked a bunch of weed or something. Yeah. So like, I don't know if you ever get that feeling. Like I feel like I've learned a lot about YouTube in the I think I started in 2017. So I don't even know how to do math, but that's a long time. It sounds like 5 years almost.
5 years, I think.
Yeah. That's ridiculous amount of time compared to how quick I thought I was going to be quitting my job, according to BKXE. So I really only needed 5,000 subscribers, a GoPro, and a gimbal, and that was it. But
if it makes you feel any better, I started the James the Bike Guy channel in 2014.
Yeah, so, I saw that on your.
What is that? That's 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a long time. Although funny enough, I had a YouTube channel before that I spent a lot of time on in college that I let die, and then I started this one. Yeah.
So is that I don't know if you know it, but I know I've written my About Me a long time ago, but you have 2 other YouTube channels that you wrote on there.
Yeah, so I've got 2 others that I actively post on. The college one is still around, but basically dead.
Yeah.
And a couple other failed YouTube channels that I tried to start as well. But like,
what do you think? Do you think that was just like it was fun for the time and you changed your mind, or you think it was like you learned a little bit and you were like, oh, I'm going to try this other thing, or what do you think it was?
I can tell you with a certainty it had to do with when Google changed their 10,000 hours and 1,000 subscribers requirement for AdSense. So the one in college was basically car stuff. Along with bikes, I've always really been into cars up until I became a homeowner and no longer had funding for cars because you pay for a house instead.
Right.
But up until that point, always had modified cars and of course cool bikes to go along with it. But so that started to slow down, and so I had a bunch of these little YouTube channels that would put in $2 or $3 a month, and that was kind of like the dopamine shot of feeling like you're getting something, and it's not really about money, but it's kind of that fun, and every once in a while you'd hit that $100 threshold from Google AdSense and get over that, get that check in the mail way back in the day.
Because back then you would be like monetized like right away. There was like
right away. I mean, like I think that channel was probably 2007, 2008 that I started doing that. And so if you think back then, I mean, literally you got a paper check mailed to your house when you'd get over $100 on Google AdSense. But so I had a channel that was just like dash cam video and just stupid stuff that would contribute so little. And when Google changed their or YouTube rather changed their stuff to be 10,000 hours of watch time and 1,000 subscribers, at that point in time, I only had 3 channels that were close to eligible. One that was automatically eligible, which was James the Bike Guy, the one that is certainly what I'd put the most work into. And then, I've got a channel that's been rebranded 100 times and it's still not right, called Millennial Review, which is basically trash videos on stuff that you end up buying to, take care of the house or put on some windshield wiper blades. Might as well make a video of that. Yeah. And then I've got Junior's Gasoline Alley, which is essentially my channel for car stuff. I took some of the good car stuff from that previous channel, put it on there, but it's where I do, work on friends' cars or stuff like that, or, remote control cars, which are a great hobby as you get a little older.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting how that evolution happens, I think with this channel, I'm pretty sure when I first started this channel, you could just turn on monetization.
I think
And
it 2016, 2017, somewhere around there, I think is when it changed. But you're right. For a long time, it would just turn on.
yeah, or you just had to make the decision. Like it was
Right.
like you started your own channel and it was like, do I want no ads or do I want ads and maybe make money? You
Right.
know what I mean? Like that was kind of like the thing. And I'm pretty sure when I first started this, I might have like had monetization on at the time because I originally like biker.com was something else before Biker what it is right now.
Oh, cool.
And I'm pretty sure I think I started that in like 2011 or something like that. And then I want to say when they changed that stuff, it was after I was doing Biker like what it is now. And at the point that they changed it, I kind of like what you were saying, I just automatically would have qualified. So it was like, oh, okay, whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I remember a bunch of friends, like I remember No Front Breaks, his channel was under the threshold at the time. And I remember him being like, man, I'm not gonna like be able to be monetized. And it was funny like how much of a big deal it was to a lot of us that were still really only making like $5 a month. You know what I mean?
Well, exactly. But I think it's like validation of your work, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's about being able to say that you got monetized.
Right.
More than it is anything else. Yeah.
I remember when I first started my channel, or like when I really first started like working this channel, you know, and I remember telling people like, imagine working a 40-hour a week job for like 9 months and then getting $100 and being stoked about it. That's what you know what I mean? And like people don't really put that into perspective. You know, it's not like 9 months of like, oh, this is just fun. You know what I mean? Like it is fun, but it's like there's a serious amount of time that you put into this, you know?
Right.
Whether it's like the filming or the editing or man, I knew zero about editing video when I started my channel.
Yep.
I mean, that alone is like people go to college for 4 years to learn how to do that. You know?
Yeah, it's
You
true.
know?
Right.
So it's definitely it's a lot of effort. And I think that there's a lot of us that are still, you know, it's like it's not like most of us YouTubers are not like quitting our jobs.
No.
Because like the amount of money that you make on YouTube versus what you're making at your real job is like it's not the same, you know? And
right.
And I think that a lot of people just assume like, hey, they put out videos every week and their videos are sick and they're like always telling us to follow, like pay for Patreon or click this link. They must be making hella money, you know? And it's like, no, dude.
No, I can say with certainty there's a long runway before I don't have a 9 to 5.
Yeah. You and me both,
for sure.
man. Yeah.
A long runway. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would have been a lot better for me to get into when I was like 17, you know? Because then the runway would be shorter. It'd be like, man, I need to make more than $5 an hour. And it's
well, I kicked myself a little bit because I've pretty much always been into videoing stuff to varying degrees of usefulness. But like I have hard drives that go back each year that are just filled with things that I've recorded. And so like, you know, I have stuff back from high school where you'd put together, like if you went a trip to Six Flags, I would video all of my friends doing that. And that would be called a vlog, but I never thought to use any of it. You know, you'd put it together for a laugh the next time you got together and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, I got to imagine some of these people that are getting into it when they're 14 or 15, you know, what kind of opportunity do they have if they really realize the opportunity, right?
Yeah, and, I mean, Mr. Beast is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, that guy's absolutely brilliant. I don't know if you've watched any of his interviews or things like that. It's
but if incredible. like he started YouTube when he was like 11 or something like that,
right?
Like doing the funny thing is like all those videos are still on his channel, so you can go back to whenever he was that age and he's just like sitting in front of his computer playing Minecraft or like making fart jokes or whatever 11-year-olds do.
Yep.
And but he's exactly what you're explaining. Like he was learning it and learning it and learning it, and then now he's making a $4.5 million video for 1 week.
Right.
Like,
And that part's pretty incredible that like he kept staying at it, because
yeah,
I forget exactly what his time frame was, but I want to say it was something like 9 years or something before he got to the
yeah,
million subscriber mark or something.
yeah,
And like to think a young adult saying, I'm just going to keep doing this,
yeah,
and pouring the money that he made back into it and all that stuff. It's a pretty cool story. I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah. No, it's super
really
rad.
neat what people can do with basically no training. You can just
Yeah,
show up and do it.
yeah. I think he also would like people would ask him like, what do you want to be when you grow up? He's like, I'm gonna be a YouTuber. And he'd
Yeah,
be like,
right.
no, where are you going to
And he
college? He's
knew
like,
it.
I'm not going to college. I'm going to be a YouTuber. Like that was
Right.
like, no matter what, everybody's like, no, seriously, man, like you can't stay in your mom's basement forever, And
Right.
so it's really interesting to see how, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where I feel like if you're determined for something and you actually, I mean, you still have to be like, have some kind of talent, right?
Sure.
But like, I feel like if you put enough work into almost anything, you'll be successful. It's just like whether or not you're willing to like wait how long it takes for you to either get better or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I just finished reading a book. I'm blanking on the name, but it had a whole section about just that consistency is one of the major determiners of success, right?
Yeah,
So if you just keep doing and you keep
yeah,
learning, eventually you'll get good at whatever you're doing.
yeah,
Or I think it's a 10,000 hour rule. There's
yeah,
some
yeah,
rule that if you do something for enough hours or 3,000 hours, whatever it is, eventually
yeah,
you become proficient at whatever that task is.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
exactly.
people quit, a tenth of the way in or halfway through,
Yeah,
and never quite get there. But yeah,
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people that just know this is what they want and go for it, which is amazing.
Yeah, I have a fortune cookie fortune on my desk right now that I think I talked about this a couple episodes ago, and it basically says like people who quit never knew how close they were to succeeding.
Yeah, well, that's
You
true.
know, and it every once in a while you'll get one of those. Like most of the time they're like hokey bullshit, but every once in a while it'll be
Right.
something that just like speaks to you, and obviously because what I'm doing like that kind of really spoke to me because sometimes I want to just pack it up. I'm like, this is bullshit, man. Like, why am I spending so much of my time doing this?
Well, what got you to start doing YouTube? So you said your website was something different before. What
Yeah.
happened there? Yeah.
I think when I first of all, like I've said this, we'll make this a two-way interview, right?
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, no, like originally, I had a lot of friends that used to tell me to do YouTube all the time because they were like, dude, you're fucking funny. Like you
Mhm.
got a great personality. You're great at YouTube. And I'd be like, yeah, whatever, dude. YouTube's for cat videos, man. I don't do cat videos.
Sure.
And like when you were starting your channel, you're like, hey, I'm gonna do bikes. In 2014, nobody was doing that, right?
Right. Yeah. You,
So it was like fail videos and cat videos in 2014. You were definitely a
yep.
groundbreaker.
Sure.
So I had started this. There was a guy that like did like a forum and like trail explanations locally here.
Okay.
And his site kind of got outdated and he got out of mountain biking, so he wasn't updating it anymore. And
Yep.
I was like, like usually with most things in my life that I start, it's because I see somebody doing something and I feel like I can do better at it, you know? And
Okay.
that was the when I started Biker, what was Biker, just biker.com. And I was like, I can build the same site as him, but like me, like I feel like I can make some better content and like rewrite these trails. Like some of the trail explanations that he have are like 10 years old. Like it's not the same
Hmm.
trail anymore.
Sure.
And I was like, and I had experience, like I had been running forums in the past because I was a gamer and stuff like that. So I knew how to like kind of build a community that way. And so I was kind of thinking about different things. I was like, oh, I could do some local stuff and, you know, get some ratings for the local bike shops and maybe put together a monthly like pub crawl bike thing, because there's some other cities that do that, and there's nothing like that going on around here. So I started all this, and I'm like, got way into it. And right about when I was writing some of the reviews of the trails, the GoPro, I don't know if it was the 2 or the 3. It was one of them that came out that like you really started seeing people like riding bikes with them more, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
And it wasn't like they had like, I think it was like I think it was the 2 actually. It's pretty early in the GoPros.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I could take a video of the trail as well as whatever I'm writing and have the pictures, because I was really planning on like kind of mimicking the guy, like write some paragraphs. Here's a picture of this intersection. Here's a picture of this feature. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I got the GoPro, and what it really did was it paralyzed my progress on my website, because my personality is to like try to make some 10,000 hours worth of experience video on my first hour. So I just like ended up having like a terabyte of video and 0 of it edited, know. And it was like, oh, I'm going to learn how to use that program. And it was just because I wanted to like make it so good. Everything that I was editing, I would be like, go back and restart it. Or I would learn something else and go back and restart it, and over and over. And it just, it got nowhere. And it wasn't until several years later when BKXE, and that's why I was making the joke when we started, actually, like was talking about, just go out and do it. Like that's the step you have to take, is you actually have to do it. And one of the things with that original site was, at that time, the only thing I was going to use YouTube for was to host my video. So it was like everything that I had made was set unlisted, and it was just going like in the web pages of my website. Gotcha. I never thought about it the opposite way around. And when BKXE started, he actually made me like think about like the website being the side gig to the YouTube channel, instead of the YouTube channel being the side gig to the website, Right. And
which probably seems obvious now, I would guess.
Yeah, right? No, totally obvious. It's so obvious. And the funny thing is like, honestly, if around that time, I mean, if I would have started doing those videos and kind of just stuck with it, and regardless of what my editing abilities were, I would have been a couple years in front of like Seth, for example, right. And I could have had, who knows, you know what I mean? And that's one of those things where that I'm pretty sure it was Jordan Boostmaster, one of his videos, along with me watching Brian, but I'm pretty sure it was Jordan Boostmaster that said like the number one thing to starting a YouTube channel is actually just starting, and like just post something. It doesn't matter what it is, because as soon as you do, it'll give you a drive to keep going. And I think that's the best advice that I can give to anybody actually like thinking about doing anything with their life. Like just start. You know what I mean? Like if you want to be a house builder, go build one. You know what I mean? Or buy a fucking hammer. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is that you need to do to start, like just start. Right. Because so many of us get like stuck on it,
Sure. Yeah, the perfection paralysis kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a big one for me, man. It really is. I don't know about you, but I really appreciate the fact that when I post a video, I can't change it.
Yeah, that's true. Although I get frustrated with the comments when people tell me that I got, a title card wrong, or I said something wrong, and they're like, you just need to go back and fix it. It's like, I don't think you understand.
It doesn't work that way.
To go back and fix it means this goes away.
Yeah. Yeah. You lose everything.
What's done is done. Yeah. I'll heart your comment and understand to do better next time. Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah. No, it sucks when that happens too, man. There's like, I think the first product that I got for free on my channel was what is that damn thing called? I use it all the time still to this day. The Brush Hero. It's like you can use it to wash your bike. It's like a spinny brush that hooks up to your
attaches to the hose, right?
Yeah.
All right.
And I like did something stupid like what you said, like typoed something and it was like, I put it up and the video was doing well compared to some of my other videos. So of course I wasn't going to take it down to like change that thing. but you're like, really? This is like your first opportunity, like, hey, you got something for free, and like, and you screwed it up.
I feel a similar way. So not too recently, I think a week or two ago, I put up this video about a Fuji Auric full suspension enduro bike, which to me felt pretty reasonably priced. Was kind of a cool bike.
Yeah.
I'm starting to learn about Fuji. It's not the kind of bike that it's not the Trekker Specialized that everyone knows about, but they make some cool stuff.
Right.
And so, anyways, I did this video, and just before doing the video, I dropped. I just use a cell phone for 85% of my videos, and so I dropped the cell phone with the USB-C microphone plugged into it, and didn't realize when it came down, it hit the port. I did see that it got bent, but it seemed like the microphone worked. Well, anyways, long story longer, I did the video, got home, went to go edit it, and it cuts out every once in a while. And right now I'm in the middle of winter. We've had snow on the ground for a couple months now, and so some of my opportunities to video stuff equates to 10 to 20 degree weather outside to go get it done. And it's like, well, I'm not going to go do that one again. It seems pretty okay, so I'll just put it up and put a comment that says, "Hey, I apologize. This sucks, but deal with it. Wanted to bring it to you." And lo and behold, it's a 1 out of 10, and now it's at like 60,000 views. And it's like, if I knew people actually cared about that, I might have gone and redone it. But I was expecting that to be a 3,000 view video of just my core audience. That's like, all right. We'll forgive James for being an idiot and putting this up.
Right.
And lo and behold, this might be the first time somebody's seen my channel is by somebody who can't use a microphone.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel about this podcast, man. When I started, I had this mic that I bought that like I felt like was a good mic because it looked cool, but it wasn't. You know what I mean? Like it might have been a cool mic if you were like a gamer or something like that. But it definitely wasn't like a quality mic. And I kept thinking it was like some setting, so it would be like, do the show, and then I would listen to it afterwards. I'd be like, oh my God, it sounds like crap. And I'd be like, oh, I just need a pop filter. So then I would buy a pop filter and then like do the show. Nope, still sounds like crap. And like you think I would test it, but no, my test was like, go live. This is going to be perfect.
I think it was 2019 is when I bought my first microphone to plug into anything, or well, at least for my normal videos to plug into anything. Because I had a Trek video that just blew up, did like 100,000 views. That all you could hear in it was just wind noise. And I got enough comments of people saying, "Hey, they make technology that can fix this." I was like, "Well, maybe I'll try." And I plugged that in. It's like, well, actually, this is a lot better to listen to.
Right.
Maybe people are into something here.
I always wonder though, like how much does it really matter? I joke a lot of times with the other creators that I know that the only people that pay attention to like color grading and like background lighting and audio is really just other creators.
Yeah, well, I think some of that's true. In my opinion, at least. I think the first thing that comes is at least having something interesting to put into your video, either an item or a story, whatever it has to be something somebody might want to watch. And then you need good audio, because if you have bad audio, it's just simply unwatchable. And then after that, I mean, you can get fancy with video, but I mean, for so many things, you can convey the information that you need by voice, and somebody can follow along. And they'll forgive a lot of mistakes with the camera. Or at least in my case, that's been true.
Yeah. No, I think you're onto something there for sure, man. I totally agree. So,
and I've spent so much time and money, unfortunately, buying nice equipment, and I've constantly found that going back to simple stuff gets the video done and gets it done well enough. But like I spent a summer using a DSLR and a big old gimbal and a separate voice recorder and all this stuff. And it made it both way more challenging to go video the whatever bike or whatever thing I
Mhm.
was going to do, because you had all this setup time. And
Right.
then when you'd get back, you'd get it edited. It looked real pretty, but it made no difference in retention time.
Yeah.
And so, if we're not making any difference in retention time, which is the thing, at least in my mind, that matters the most. I mean, if
Yeah.
somebody's staying for 10% of my video versus 50% of my video, that's a big difference on how well I feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why chase after something that doesn't make somebody stay?
Yeah.
Especially if it makes my life harder. It makes no
Yeah.
sense at all.
Yeah. I'm definitely in like a spot right now with my edits that's
Yep.
somewhere along. Like I feel like I need to reevaluate that. I feel like I like my videos that I'm making now
I
more.
like your 1-minute videos a
Yeah.
little better.
Yeah. I like them a lot. Yeah. They're
Yeah,
super fun
and
because
I
they're
bet
short.
you they don't take you that long. I mean, I'm
No.
sure you put effort into it, but
Yeah.
nothing like some of the other ones you've done.
Oh, no, not at all, dude.
Yeah.
Like I can go record like 10 of those in my garage in 20 minutes.
Yeah,
And it
right.
probably only takes me maybe 15 minutes of video to edit them,
Right.
because it's literally 90 seconds. It's starting and stopping, right? So
Yeah.
like there's not really like, you just make a couple of cuts so that you change the focus point so it looks like it's like,
Sure.
a little bit more visually stimulating. But other than that, I mean, that's all it is, right? Those videos don't do a lot of views, but man, they just like they just kind of sit back there and churn,
Well, that
But
would be the momentum. I mean, if you're able to produce 3x the output with something like that compared to a full video, your
yeah.
catalog just gets bigger, and
Yeah.
that snowball just grows and grows and grows.
Yeah, it's
Um,
interesting though, because if I look at, I was talking about this just the other day with one of the guys on our YouTube Slack channel,
yeah.
and he was showing me like stats from his channel that had 48 hours. And I was like,
Mhm.
I don't look at my stats very often because every time I do, they end up like I just like start thinking that I'm like looking into a crystal ball and I know what the hell's going on. And then like 3 weeks later realize I actually didn't know a clue. Yeah, I don't have a clue, right?
Right.
So then I'm like, this is a waste of my time. Don't get sucked into the rabbit hole,
Right.
And so anyways, he had his 48 hours and I put up mine and he's like, look, dude, like almost 3/4 of those are 90-second reviews. And
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
believe
yeah,
it.
that's a good point. But if I change it to 28 days, the number drops to like 30% of them are 90-second reviews.
Right, but I would guess that has to do with your catalog that you have, before then.
Yeah.
You've got
Yeah.
a lot more soldiers marching from 2 years ago than you do 90-second reviews today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, just even like I would say the 90-second review with the most views right now is at most like 2,000 views.
Yeah,
So they're not super like they're not killing it. Whereas like I have like fairly recent videos that have, closer to 20K, you
sure.
know. So I think the way that I just have to like accept those is that they're just slow churners, because
Mhm.
those are like product reviews that are super specific. Like most people don't open up YouTube and be like, "Oh, I want to watch a video about a brake bleed kit," unless Seth does it, you
Yeah,
know.
sure.
So like but if they go online and they type, "Hey, I want a brake bleed kit," and they see a great thumbnail and a short video, at least that's what I look for when I'm looking for a review. Like
Right,
a decent thumbnail and a really low time, because I
right.
don't want to listen to you talk about freaking subscribe and follow and all the shit that I say on my channel all the time.
Sure,
You know
right.
what I mean?
The stuff we're all guilty of saying.
Yeah, yeah.
We
Well,
don't
you
wanna
have
hear
to
it
if you want
either.
to be successful, right?
Yeah,
But
sure.
but yeah, and so I think I just have to accept that's what's happening with those. And so far I feel like I have, because I like kind of like dragging my feet on my longer videos. They take forever for me to edit. Sometimes I get like just not motivated to edit them. But what was starting this conversation is I really enjoy that content when I finish it. Like I feel
Sure.
proud of it, And then they do well too, because they're freaking good videos,
Yeah.
But those 90-second reviews, they're just fun and bam. And then I can drop them 2 or 3 times a week, and it's still putting content out on the channel, and I enjoy watching them or making them. So that's what's happening now. So
Yeah,
yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. When you started your channel, how did you start yours? The bike guy one.
Yeah, so James the Bike Guy pretty much came around from at the time I was working on the sales floor at Landry's Bicycles, and essentially I had a whole bunch of people and customers that were always curious about what things weigh. And back then I would take pictures of stuff and I'd put them into a folder, because I would bring this little green scale with me to work, and I'd weigh stuff if we were doing a custom build or I special ordered something that I've never seen before. A lot of times my first opportunity to see stuff was because I helped somebody else get excited about it so that they could buy it and bring it in for me. Which was always fantastic, which is a great way to make people excited and get your geek out, right?
Right.
It's nice when other people can do that for you. And so they'd come in and they'd weigh it, and I did not have a good tool to share that with somebody else who wanted to know what something weighed. I mean, if you go back then, that was kind of the height of the like bike weight weenie time. And the time we live in today is about like supple and comfortable and having way more suspension than you need. So it's a totally different time today in the bike world. But so back then that would happen. And I was like, what would be easier is I could just use YouTube and take a quick video of it with my phone, put it on YouTube. I could title it, and then I'd have this like catalog I could just look at later on, or search for it on YouTube and then send it to somebody. Or show them, this i9 hub that came in that I put on a scale, and hear the sound or hear the weight. And so as I did that, these were super crude, but they would occasionally get views, and then people would put things like, "Oh, I wish you told me something about it. This is a stupid video." And so I'd be like, "Well, they're not wrong. Maybe I should say something about it."
But you're like, this video is actually just for me. So like,
Well, but hey, I mean, if it's helping somebody else, great. So then they went to me doing like 5 seconds of this thing's made out of this material, or it's got this whiz bang feature, drop it on a scale. And then somebody would be like, "Oh, I wish you told me about how this thing was done with it." It's like, well, I could do that too. And then now it went from 10 seconds to videos became a minute to a minute and a half to 3 minutes as I was adding content. And then we got in this specialized stump jumper in 2019, I think it was, whenever they went to their sidearm design, the whole this big push that they did on marketing. And one of them showed up a couple of days before it was allowed to be shown to anyone. And I was like, well, if I just take that to the back parking lot and I check out this cool thing and I put it out the same day that everyone's allowed to see this stuff, maybe people would like to know what the thing weighs. And that video did astronomically better than anything I had ever done before. And I was like, well, apparently people would like to see bicycles instead of what a front derailleur weighs. And, it's just kind of changed a little bit through there. But mostly just been like, how do you convey a little bit of information, take whatever the kind of like the spec sheet might be, and just create a visual version of that and show what some of those words on a spec sheet means to somebody and put it out there.
I was watching, you have your kind of your channel intro video set as like a hub explanation that you did.
Oh yeah, that's forever old, I think.
No, but it's good content though. I think that's one of those things that most of us that have been doing mountain, or let's just say bike YouTube for a while, we forget that there's like people that don't know how this stuff works.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And they're actually looking for that kind of content, and if you ask like the majority, or you ask people in general, like, hey, what do you want to see a video about? They're not going to ask that, but it's actually something they're interested in. You know what I mean? Like, so you have a lot of really good content on your channel. Like I'm not super familiar with you or your channel,
Yeah.
you know. I think I ran into you through the Slack channel or
Mhm.
something else. I don't even remember at this point.
Yeah.
And but like I went and looked at like what you had on your channel, and it's like, dude, you've got a lot of like a big spread too. Because it's
Sure.
like some channels like mine, for example, I say I'm a biker channel, but I'm a mountain bike channel. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like every once in a while, there might be a gravel bike on there or my
Yeah,
fixie or something. You know
something.
what I mean? But it's like I'm a mountain bike channel.
Right.
But like you really have like you've got a lot of different stuff going on there, man.
Yeah.
Are these
Well,
all like your personal bikes, or you're like one of those guys that just likes to flip bikes constantly? How's that work?
well, not too much on my channel is personal bikes.
Uh-huh.
Pretty much the only stuff about my personal bikes might be like a riding vlog that I might do, or if
Hmm.
I'm doing a build or a mechanical upgrade.
Uh-huh.
I'm only gonna record my stuff because
Uh-huh.
if somebody's paying for me to do something,
Uh-huh.
I don't want to be distracted by trying to video their item.
Yeah.
But basically most of it is like get into work and get there a couple hours early, grab a bike or something off of
Oh.
the sales floor,
Oh,
walk it
okay.
out back, try to do a video or two,
Yeah, yeah.
and essentially knock that out. And the thing about it is like there's so many different bikes, and I go back like so when I started getting into riding, I remember my very first mountain bike per se was
Mhm.
this Magna full suspension,
Mhm.
and I remember being like so excited about it, right? And got the bike, and it was kind of okay. I spent a year babysitting, and then I got myself a Specialized hard rock.
Mhm.
And once I got that hard rock, I mean, the difference between the Walmart bike and the hard rock back then was so big.
Yeah.
And I think about that today is like, I ride a bunch of really nice bikes, and I'm super grateful for being able to have stuff that's
Yeah.
unobtainium for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, totally.
And the thing is like the unobtainium that I choose to ride today is the same unobtainium as somebody buying a $500 bike.
Yeah.
And I still get some excitement when you see a $500 bike and you're like, man, I'd actually ride that. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. And
Yeah, yeah.
so I love to make videos about that stuff because there's way more people buying $5,000 bikes than there are $10,000 bikes.
Yeah.
And there's way better people recording $10,000 bikes than I am, right?
Yeah.
And so like, there
That's
is
a good
no
way to put
limit
it.
to swanky bike on the internet being hucked off of something.
Yeah.
But there's a huge limit of brand XYZ
Yeah.
steel hardtail with a 70 millimeter fork
Yeah.
that somebody is going to be really excited to own.
Yeah, yeah. It's
So
funny you talk
like,
about that difference in the bikes, because my first bike was like from Montgomery Ward's and
mhm,
or mountain bike for instances, and like my first real bike was a Giant, but at that point, like real mountain bike, but at that point, like that was still a fully rigid bike,
right.
and but the difference between those two bikes was phenomenally different.
Oh,
And
it's
it
incredible. Yeah.
yeah, and it's crazy, like I didn't even ever really think about that. I mean, now you think like how much difference is between a fully rigid Specialized, which is basically going to be their like bottom of the line bike, compared to
If they even make one anymore.
right, compared to
Yeah.
like a Walmart bike.
Right.
You would think there's not a whole lot, but there is still, like,
Yeah.
you know, I
Like,
always feel bad. Somebody the other day on one of my comments was like, I have these weight loss videos, and a lot of people, that's inspired a lot of people, which is really rad.
mhm,
And somebody had sent something to me, and they're like, man, I'm like super stoked. I lost some weight, and I'm gonna go buy myself a bike. I'm gonna go to Walmart and pick up a bike. And I
sure.
was like, man, like on one hand, I'm so excited that you're deciding to get into mountain biking. But then
Right.
on the same note, I'm like, I hope that bike doesn't ruin your experience,
Sure.
you know?
Well, I love the husbands that go, "Oh, I'm gonna get myself a nice bike, but I'm gonna get my wife a bike from Walmart to see if she
Mhm,
likes it." Like,
mhm.
well, sir, how can we be certain that your wife is not going to love cycling?
Right.
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 it's
Yeah.
this exact plan. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing about the whole Walmart thing is I don't know what the percentage is, but let's guess that maybe 80% of people get into cycling through some form of that, right?
Yeah. Some
So
form of
so
extremely cheap bike.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
of whatever variety they might get. And it is still pretty amazing how many people fall in love with the sport while
Yeah.
having like the worst equipment possible.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty cool. And I sometimes catch myself like when you see some videos come out about that, or somebody that that goes to the store, you want to go like, hey, why didn't you just buy a used bike? A used bike
Yeah.
is way better.
I say that.
However, when somebody buys a used bike, they buy the maintenance or the issues that come with it.
Yeah.
And if your very first bike is coming through, it's really unlikely that you'll know any of that. So
Yeah.
it's like, that's easy to say once you know what you're doing, but how do you
Yeah.
make that decision when like it's totally fresh?
Yeah. And every time I say that, I always have to like remember, if I didn't know what I know about bikes, I would
Right.
definitely not buy a used bike because I'd be afraid that I was going to get ripped off.
Yeah.
You know?
Or, you have stuff like brakes that need to be bled, or, you find out that you can no longer buy 26-inch tires because that's
Right.
just not a thing for some reason anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All those kind of things that you just don't know going into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate that that's the thing, and I usually try to tell people, like, hopefully if they're my friends, I'll try to lean them into it and be like, look, I can help you, send you some stuff. I can show you like what's going to be good. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like the motto of my channel. It only takes a bike to be a biker. And I think that's really why what you just said, about people starting out on cheap bikes, it doesn't really matter, because you
Right.
get out there and regardless of like, I actually have no more fun on the bike that I have that's sitting here that probably retails for way too much money
Sure.
compared to like that original Montgomery Ward's bike. Like, I'm still having the same amount of fun.
Right.
I'm having less mechanicals now, and I'm like not beating my
Sure.
body up as much, and I'm probably riding better, because of those things. But the amount of fun, that doesn't change,
Yeah. Well, I think there is a little bit of a curve as you go through. Like, the what is it, the minimum necessary equipment or whatever to
Yeah.
have fun,
Yeah.
but that is reasonably low, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can have a lot of fun on relatively inexpensive gear,
Yeah.
and when you get nicer stuff, it makes certain things better.
Yeah.
But most group rides, you can go on a mountain bike ride and have a huge variety of the equipment people are on.
Yeah.
And I've been shown up time and time again with somebody on a fully rigid 26er that just knows
Yeah.
what they're doing,
Yeah.
and that means a lot more than whatever Gucci thing you're sitting on.
Yeah. Right when I was leaving the trail today, my lady and I, we went out, we took the dog for a little
Oh,
hike, and
cool.
then she was doing some shuttles for me.
Yeah.
And we were leaving, and as we were leaving, I watched this guy like pop out on the trail, like a nice full suspension rig, something new. And like right behind him was this dude that was like, it had to be like 10 or 15 years old, like hardtail
Yep.
fork that you're like, they still have those,
Sure,
like
sure.
you were like, man, this guy really dusted the dust off of that to get in, but like exactly what you just said. They both came out of the bottom of that downhill trail at the same time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, and I've had the same thing that you're talking about, where I've judged somebody by their bike, at the trailhead, and then they're like waiting for me at the bottom of the hill. And you're
Yep.
like, oh, wow, okay. So I guess flip-flops and jeans don't mean that you're a bad rider, like.
I showed up on a group ride, several years ago at this place called Vietnam. It's run by New England Mountain Bike Association. It's kind of like the mecca of cycling in
Mhm.
Massachusetts. And anyways, I was on the group ride, and there was a gentleman on, what you might consider like an old clunker, something
Mhm.
that looks like a 90s mountain bike. Super
Yeah.
cool dude. but anyways, we got to, there's a section, some people call it Gnomes Landing, but they've got some of these hollowed out trees with gnomes in there, and a whole bunch of rocks, and it's really substantial rock garden to get through, half the height of a wheel kind of rocks to go through. And I've ridden there since I was a kid. I mean, probably 15 years, and I've yet to go through that section. Right. And he kind of starts lining up and is track standing on the bike, and then goes through and does a line I've never seen before.
Right.
And literally right after seeing it, it clicked, and now I can get through there, no problem. Right. But it's like, of all the people that I was with, that was the dude to like show me how to get through this section that has thwarted me forever.
Yeah.
And it was super cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's really neat to see when people are doing that.
I like being humbled like that, man.
Yeah.
I was probably back in, I don't know, 2007 or something like that. Like after I got back into mountain biking, I was in pretty good shape. I was all stoked about, being skinny and whatever. And I went on this group ride, and there was this dude probably about as big as I am now, maybe even bigger than that, and he's like starting this group ride with like no shirt on, just like big old beer gut all over the place, like awesome. No fucks given, you know what I mean? And I just remember thinking, like, the ride that we were going on, I was like, man, this guy's gonna be sucking, because there are some big hills here, and we're going up this hill, and I'm like just giving it everything I have, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm just freaking pushing, and all of a sudden I hear these like two guys just bullshitting, and they just go right by me like I'm sitting still. And one of those two dudes was that big fat guy, and he's like, one hand on the handlebar, just like blah 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 blah, talking to his buddy, and just zoomed right past me. And I remember at that moment that I was like, you know what, you cannot look at anybody on the trail and think what they have in their skill set, or look at their bike and think who they are, because you don't. So just like squash that and forget about it, Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's definitely like, but I like that. I like being humbled like that. You know what I mean? It like taught me something that I carry for the rest of my life, Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
Well, that's the importance of riding with other people.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people that do the same sort of trails by themselves most of the time. And albeit the majority of my mountain biking is by myself too.
Yeah.
But being able to go out with other people, you end up seeing stuff that you would have never really seen before, or find a new line to get through stuff, or, the other piece is like some people just push you and you end up going a hell of a lot faster than you ever would before. I mean, group rides or mountain biking with other people is really fun in that way.
The line thing that is really, I think that's a big one too. Like that's funny you mentioned that, because I've definitely, probably even within the last couple of months, had some like aha moments from being able to like follow a friend and actually like, oh, I've never seen anybody go over that rock that way.
Right.
That makes so much sense. I don't know, like, cause like we're like, humans are creatures of habit, right?
Yeah.
So even me, when I'm going down a trail and I'm thinking in my head, I'm going to take this other line, I'm going to try something different today, I'm going to try something different. Like you get to that spot and you're like, nope, doing what this is definitely still the best one, right. And it's like, it takes actually seeing somebody else. And I remember I was following with my buddy's wife one day and on this trail, and she like, I'm definitely like, quote unquote, a better rider than her, you know what I mean? So I was kind of like chilling behind her, like, it was like a fun group ride or whatever, and I was like, yeah, whatever, we're just having a good time. And she went up and over this rock, like way off the trail, that I would have I never even thought that you could go that
never
way.
Even seen it.
Never. Yeah. And I remember that section, I would always get irritated because I'd come into it, I'd like super brake, and I'm like, how the hell are you supposed to get through? You're fast. And it's like, she just came straight in, went over this, like this huge, like almost like wall ride kind of rock, just right over the top of it, down the other side. And I was like, holy crap. Like, and that's like, once again, like here I was still like judging somebody, you know what I mean? Like we all do it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like it's just human nature, but it was one of those moments like where it's like, man, like wow, you like totally changed it for me, you know?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. It's funny though, that like you can only get those moments by accident. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I feel like if somebody told me to go that way a long time ago, I'm like, no, I don't want to go that way. You know
Sure.
what I mean?
Well, I
Yeah.
think you also need to see it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Totally.
even if you're
Totally.
told that's the way.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all what is it, lemurs or something that follow each other,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Totally.
You know,
Totally.
once you see it, you know you can do it.
Yeah. So you've done a lot of different like product reviews over the years. What's something that you thought was going to be really good that just like shit the bed?
Let's I don't know, that's a tough question. So generally if I don't like something, I just don't put the video up,
There you go. Yeah.
or don't even do the video,
Yeah.
because I'd rather only show stuff that was good. But I guess I don't know, something I put up that I was a little bummed about. I very rarely take free stuff from people to do videos.
Uh-huh.
And anyways, this Asian company reached out regarding an e like hybrid bike or something. And normally I don't really touch that stuff on my channel. Anyways, a lot of the electronic stuff I'm just not as educated as I should be to be able to, accurately convey some information.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a bunch of channels that do it really well, but this particular bike was a single speed belt drive with a battery tucked up inside of the frame. And like, I don't know, it seemed really cool. It seemed
Yeah.
like
Looks
something
rad.
that like I could see myself wanting. I'm like, all
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
send it out. I'll do a video on it, and I'll do my best to put it together.
Yeah.
And this is when I basically got educated on pretty much any mainline brand. Your big brands are all using 48-volt systems with fairly powerful mid-drive motors down where the cranks are.
Uh-huh.
Well, this happened to be a 36-volt system with a hub motor, and I've done a lot of learning since then that would make this make sense. But with the one speed, I thought, well, the motor is going to overpower when I am not powerful enough to get up something.
Yeah.
And, they've probably geared it hard enough that, you can go pretty fast on it. You can go
Yeah.
25 or whatever, because I think it was classified as a class 3.
Mm-hmm.
But something about the bike was just not right. The gearing was set up so low that
Mm-hmm.
you'd spin out, 110 cadence, something like that, around 20, 21 miles an hour. So to get going at any speed, like your feet are going fast.
Oh
And
yeah.
then because it was such a low power e-bike
Uh-huh.
and driving these really heavy electric motors that are in the hub, it
Right.
had like no balls getting up hills.
Oh
And
wow.
so all of a sudden the bike sort of became useless.
Right.
And so I'm thinking through, like, what's the use case? I live in central Massachusetts, which is really a hilly area.
Right.
Around here, we've got what we would consider like punchy climbs.
Right.
It's not like you're going for 1,000 feet, but you
Yeah.
have a lot of these, 50, 100-foot climbs, and then you go back down.
Yeah.
On a road ride around here, it's pretty normal to do somewhere around 1,000 or so, 1,100 feet of climbing for every 10 miles, which is
Yeah.
relatively challenging for
Yeah. Yeah.
most conditions.
Yeah.
Out your way, that would be up once and then you get the whole way down. But
Right.
ours
Right.
is rolling the entire time. And so
Yeah.
anyways, this bike basically was frustrating the entire time that you're riding in. It's like, so what use case could this be good for? And it's
Uh-huh.
like, well, I guess if I lived in the city or I lived down in Florida
Uh-huh.
and, I just wanted something to scoot around, it could be good. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I guess that would be the most disappointing thing that I've had
Yeah.
on the channel, because
Those
it's annoying.
Asian, yeah, those Asian brand like knockoffy kind of stuff. I mean, anybody that's doing social media, whether it's Instagram or YouTube or whatever, or TikTok, you're
Yeah.
definitely like you get bombarded by those.
Oh,
And
sure.
every once in a while, one of them will like sing to you a little bit.
Yeah.
I've almost
You're like,
been
all
on a
right, I'll
few
do
of them.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or you're like, oh, well, that would be cool to have like this, battery boombox
Right.
solar power thingy that I could take when I'm going barbecuing.
Well,
You're
well,
like,
that's
oh,
what my millennial review channel is great at. when I get those into James the Bike Guy, because I get those all the time to that email address.
Yeah.
I'll then write back and say, hey, I'd be interested in this, but I'm going to post it up on my other channel.
Yeah.
And some people take the bait, and it's funny because on that channel, I have a wide variety of really bad electronics, like taillights that are just tremendously awful.
Yeah.
And then every once in a while I get something, you're like, all right, I'll keep this. I'll use it.
Some of that stuff is like hit or miss too in that zone. Like I know I used to ride like street bikes, and like to get a really good aftermarket or like maybe real plastic, fender eliminator that's gonna like tuck up your brake lights into the back of your bike, like could be like way expensive. Like let's just say $1,000, right?
Sure.
But you can find some like Chinese knockoff brand for like 200. Some of them will be good enough. You know what I mean? Like the paint might not be perfect, but most people aren't looking at your bike from like 3 feet away. Like most of them are looking at it from, a distance, or like maybe you might have to jump through a little bit of hoops to get the lights to work right or something like that. Or the screw holes to mount up, so it's like worth that. But sometimes it's like, no, you just got took for $200, man. This thing's no good at all.
I have a pretty hard stop when it comes to things that are safety related.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to try any person's whiz bang no name front fork.
Yeah.
Simply, I just don't feel like visiting the dentist.
Right,
However, like I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good other example, but if like somebody wanted to try out a new cassette or something, what's the worst that happens? I get really pissed 5 miles into a ride.
Right.
Maybe that would be interesting to try. But
I tried that with a set of hubs once, man. I bought these, like, I think it was like Circus Monkey or something Circus. I can't remember what it was. Hubs, and they were like, you could get any color you wanted. They were what I mean? It was like, these are dope, dude. You could get a whole set of hubs for like $100 instead of 500. This has got to just be because they're from China. They're coming from the same factory. And I put them on, and it was like, I got, first of all, you got to pay to get these things built because I can't do that myself.
Well, that's what I was going to say is you just threw away some spokes and a whole bunch of labor.
Put them on. I think it was like at least maybe 3 rides in, and like the internals just like shit the bed. It was done. And I was like, then I instantly learned about, I got to pay to get these rebuilt, and I got to get all these. Oh God. Yeah. I learned my lesson on hubs right then and there. So these things happen, right?
Well, that's the challenge with wheel building is like it's a lot of money to do it right. And then when there's one thing that you spec wrong or you cheaped out on, it can really hurt a wheel. And like in that case, you just toast, it's done.
One of I have a friend that runs a hub company, and he tried to teach me how to build wheels, and it's just not in me. Have you ever built a wheel?
No.
Yeah. It like I really didn't want to learn, but he was like really wanting me to learn. And I know myself, and I don't have the patience for that kind of task. Right. It's just not like, and I was right. It took me about 5 minutes, and I was like, look, dude, I am like, would much rather drink the rest of this beer and watch you do this, dude. Like I'm like done learning.
Well, there's also a little bit of art to it. I've got a good buddy of mine and coworker that he loves building wheels, and so I've got several wheels that have kind of been built up in a few different ways. But like he'll sit through and like think through how to get the decal to show up matching what the rim decals are, or sometimes finding that one little detail that if you look through the hole where the valve goes, you can see that through, which you're only going to see when you first get these wheels.
Right.
And then, he'll help me think through, on non-drive and drive, what type of spokes I want to use and try to feel out what the wheel's going to be. And it is truly an art form when you've got somebody who knows what they're doing. Yeah. And I'd much rather flip him a few bucks to come out with a really nice wheel rather than spend the hours to build a mediocre one on my own.
Yeah, I have a friend that's like he was a bike mechanic in college, and like as far as like people that I would trust working on my bike, like he's high on the list. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Whenever I finally got to the point in my life where I wanted to build a custom set of wheels, I asked him if he would build them for me. He's like, nah. And I was like, why? And he's like, dude, I don't even build my own wheels. He's like, I go over to this other shop. Like, it's
exactly.
He's like, yeah, I can do it, but he's like, I wouldn't want to ride my own wheels. I go have this other dude build them.
Right.
And when he told me that, I was like, oh, okay, I'm with you then. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm a cheap ass. If I feel like if I knew how to do it, that I would be like, I'd do it myself. But now that I'm a little bit more experienced with these things, like I know I don't want to. I know I'm sure that I have the mental aptitude to do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm sure that I could build a wheel, but 100% like what you said, it's not going to be. I haven't got the 10,000 hours. You know what I mean?
Well, that's it. I mean, I've got on one of my road bikes, I've got a set of sub 1,400 gram alloy wheels, so aluminum rims, all built up. Sub 1,400, if you're not a weight weenie, is like holy grail light for road bike wheels. And anyways, I'm also plus 200 pounds depending on the day of the week and what season it is. Typically lightweight aluminum and heavy don't match, right? Usually that ends in failure, but because they were custom built and we thought through what we were going to do on them, I think that wheel set has 4,000 miles, and it's only hit a truing stand once, which was after the first 100-mile break-in. And past that, I mean, knock on wood, because I don't feel like buying new wheels. It's incredible if it's done right. I mean, you get some killer stuff.
Yeah. I had some. I think that first set of wheels that I was talking about, that I had that guy. I took his recommendation when he built the wheels, and it was a set of Stan's flows, aluminum, and Project 321 was the first set of Project 321 hubs that I bought over 10 years ago, which is funny because I ended up becoming friends with the guy that owns the company and stuff later on down the road. But I built those, the same thing. I think I took them in maybe like 2 or 3 months after I bought them, just to like tighten it back up. And I don't even know if there was a problem. I think it was more along the lines of like, they had told me like, hey, you can bring them back and we'll like get them back in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And I just did it. And I never trued those ever again. The only time I ever did anything with those spokes was like about a year ago. I'd cut the hubs out to give them to somebody,
Cool.
like they were still good, So it's kind of crazy.
I've never held any of the Project 321 stuff, but heirloom quality hubs are amazing because you can just move them from wheel set or to other people. I'm sure those are the case, but isn't that a great feeling not to just have to throw that away? You can let them live with somebody else later on.
It's a crazy thing too, like to have a set of wheels and be like, hey, when I buy a new bike, don't care about the wheels because I'm going to put these on there. That's the only thing I can say. Like I tend to get like real matchy with my stuff, but if you're building a custom set of wheels and you think you're going to like move through bikes, make them plain, like black hubs and black spokes, and just put some stickers on them or something like that. Some decals from a place like Stickered or whoever, and get your POW out of it that way. Because then you can buy another bike, and instead of upgrading to the carbon wheels, you can have your carbon wheels you just bring with you, and you can sit those other wheels to the side, let them collect dust for a year or whatever it is while you ride the bike. And when you go to sell the bike, boom, it's like, hey, brand new set of wheels on there too. It's definitely. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm horrible with that stuff because I don't do much custom anymore. Because I swap bikes way faster than people should. A bike is rarely owned much more than a year, and so in that like I never color match anything. Most of my stuff is like as boring as could be. But I've got a few bikes that I do not intend on selling, and those particular ones you end up Gucciing up and really making nice. But I'm laughing a little when you say be able to bring them to the next wheel or next bike. I think that's true right up until the next standard changes. And that's the thing. Whatever, every 5 years or something, we get something that makes nothing work together anymore.
Right. Or even like now it seems like, let's say you're a heart, like tried and true 29er guy or 27.5 guy. And then it's like, boom, next bike, like the trend right now is mullet.
Yeah. Right.
So you're like, oh, I need to buy one wheel.
Yeah. Well, and then that's annoying when some of the brands that are selling mullets are selling their wheels only as wheel sets. Right. And it's like, what product designer or product manager, I should say, thought this through?
Yeah.
But I haven't gotten into mullet yet. I've ridden a few of them and they're neat. I guess I haven't been able to satisfy the needing to bring 2 tubes with me kind of problem. I mean, I lived through the day when they did.
First of all, I'm gonna set you straight right here, dude. Carry 27.5, you're fine.
Well, sure, you can just stretch it.
Yeah, it'll work no matter what, man. So don't worry about it. But I'm curious. So, are you a 27.5 guy or are you a 29 guy?
29er.
29er guy. Okay.
Yeah,
See, I'm a 27.5 guy, and I do have a 29er bike. This is not my first one. But I'm still a 27.5 guy overall.
Yeah.
But I'm really intrigued. I haven't ridden a mullet yet, so I'm like really intrigued by it. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, so it at least in my experience, it's felt like the bike can be just a little more maneuverable in the front end. And I think that's because you're I don't know what the right engineering term is, but basically that space in the back that you're pivoting off of gets a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
And especially with modern bikes, I feel like that is becoming more necessary because everyone's chasing these super slack head tube angles, which then means that they need a steep seat tube angle, which then means you need to extend the reach and then adjust down the offset of the fork. You end up in a long way with a giant long wheelbase of a bike.
Right.
And so when you do that, that makes it long, low, slack, and stable. And stable in a way that can make it not fun. Right. And so how do you make it fun? Well, you start shortening things up and you bring that rear center so short. And I think that's kind of where it's going. I guess I don't totally understand at least around here, you lower your bottom bracket height, which is a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
Our stuff, I've ridden a bunch in California and our stuff is nowhere near as buff as some of the trails that y'all get to enjoy.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of like little rocky stuff that you're dealing with.
Yeah, exactly. And so like pedal strike is a real thing. And so dropping that bottom bracket is a little challenging. But I don't know. I like the idea of everything matching, just being 29. And maybe I'll come buy the right bike that totally changes my mind. I mean, this morning I did a video that'll go up at some point, but of the new Chameleon. And I got to play around with an MX and the standard 29. And I don't know, I'd probably buy it in a 29er, but who knows? I'm happy to be wrong.
If you're a 29er guy already, I could see that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I understand the reason that guys like 29ers.
Yeah.
And like most of the reasons that guys like 29ers are the exact opposite of the reasons that I like 27.5. Like,
sure.
Like they like that, that extra speed that it carries. They like the way that it, the grip is or whatever. They like the way the rollover is. They like the way that it just kind of like, maybe.
I like the confidence that when you get hung up on a rock, I didn't choose the bike that would make it harder.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If I'm getting caught up on a 29er, it would have sucked on a 27.5.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling okay.
And for me, it's like the reason that I really like the 27.5 is I like that it's more twitchy. I like that I have to like pop it through stuff more. Like I like the way that active feeling is. And so like when I get on a 29er, it feels sluggish to me, or like it feels like it's picking its own line instead of like what I want it to do.
Sure.
So it's interesting to hear what your take on the mullet is. I watched what's his name, Hardtail Party recently do
Sure.
that
Yeah, he's got a lot
that
of cool stuff.
chameleon. And
Yeah.
I've had a chameleon before too, and that bike was super fun. So I was really, really interested in how he felt about that mullet. And it seemed like by the end of his video, he said the same, like he'd rather pick the 29er.
Yeah. I think this is fair to say the only mullet that really interests me right now, at least, is the Bronson.
That's what I was going to mention.
Yeah, that I can't put into words why I look at that. I'm like, I'd like to ride that, but I definitely have that feeling checking it out. And there's a lot of other mullets that are just okay. I mean, they seem cool, but something about the Bronson just feels like it would be a really good mix between the trails that I have around here. And then when you go up lift service up at Highland or Thunder Mountain around us, that it could be a real good one bike to do it all. But I haven't gotten any riding on one aside from a parking lot, which only sort of tells you something.
Yeah, totally. I've had a couple of Bronsons. I mean, that's my main bike now.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously you're speaking my language, but the one thing that I've heard from a lot of people on that bike, and from people that weren't like Bronson fans, like people that just were like, oh, I demoed it or whatever, and maybe they were 29er fans or whether they were like whatever. I've heard a lot of people say that they just got on that bike and it just felt like their bike. Like regardless of what their bike was, like it just like it was, for lack of a better term, like the chameleon that they needed. You know what I mean? Just like it just rode so well. And that's the one thing that really, because I'll be dead honest, when they said that bike was coming out as a mullet, I thought my initial reaction was, so this is when I stopped riding the Bronson. Like this is when I switched to another brand. Like I really like 27.5.
Right.
Like at least for like that type of riding that I use that bike for. And I'm so curious. And then one of my buddies bought, like his wife has that new Bronson, so he was riding it as a mullet, and he said he really liked it. And then he got he got a Scott that comes as a 29er, but you can switch it to a mullet. And he like did it both ways, and he also was like into the mullet. And then I had a buddy like a while ago that I think it was like, before companies actually were making the mullet, where people were just doing it on their own. And he had like took his Evil or something like that and switched it to mullet. And he was like going on and on about it at the time. So I've had all these people keep telling me like how much they like it. And I feel like I should listen, because the same the same amount of positive energy is what I heard about the Plus tires from people. And I never tried them for the longest time. And then whenever I finally did, I was like, oh my God, I love this.
Sure.
Like, especially like you're a big guy. Like you said you're in the Clydesdale set, like me, dude. I'm like 250 right now, so like I'm a big dude. And those Plus tires make me feel like this is what this is what traction feels like if you weigh 140 pounds.
Right.
I'm like, this is amazing. So I was kind of bummed when the new Bronson A turned into a mullet, and then B also they changed the frame. Like you can't use the Plus tires anymore. And like I have a set of rims that are 45 mil internal with 2.8s on them that I use on my Bronson. And then I also have a set of like 35 millimeter, like that I'm running 2.5s, my Envies on.
Right.
So that bike is like two totally different bikes with those wheels on it.
Yeah.
So whenever they were like, oh, well, it's going to mullet, I'm like, now I can't use those Plus. Like maybe I'll just keep this older one. Like I don't know. So it's definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting to see.
I don't know what happened to that plus size, fad or section of time. I really liked it. I mean, my wife has a plus bike. She's got a Trek Roscoe that she just straight up loves. And, I had a bike for a while, Hightower, the first gen, that I would swap between them. I literally had a set of Mavic XA wheels with 2.8s on it, and then I had the 29ers, and I'd swap between it. And I always felt like the plus size was the perfect medium between, your 2.3 and then a fat bike. I do a lot of fat biking, especially this time of year. And
you said you were using 2.8?
Yeah, it was 2.8 I was using on that.
I feel like 2.8 is the perfect size for plus.
Well, the 3.0s get heavy. Without going weight weenie here, it's amazing that there can be 150, 200 grams of weight difference by going 2.8 to 3.0. There must be something about the tire construction that has to change. But the 3.0s feel slow, and a 2.8 feels plenty snappy. But then again, today, I mean, pretty much every bike I ride, I run 2.6s on 29ers. So that's near enough, a mid fat anyways.
Yeah, totally. It's tough. I think that 2.8 though is like the perfect size tire when you're going plus. Like I've talked to a bunch of guys too that they're like, 3.0 is too much, but like that 2.8 still like rolls really well, and like it's enough cushion that it's a huge difference between a 2.8 and a 2.6. You know what I mean?
Like, it definitely is. A lot of that is tire height changes. So the ERTO standard, tire height's a function of width. And so whatever that light bulb shape is that gets created by the tire, the casings have to get a lot taller. And so it really does make a difference.
Yeah, totally. It's definitely, it's a bummer that it's not like sticking around, because I feel like the reason that it's not sticking around is because they were like engineering for the 3.0 or something like that.
Or
if they just engineer for 2.8 and they don't call it plus, I'm okay with that. Like, let me still put those wheels on because they were so much fun. I had those 2.8s on my Chameleon, and I ran the Chameleon as a 29er for a while, and then I ran them as the plus. And on a hardtail, a plus tire is like, oh my god, it's so good. Is like that little bit of extra suspension that just made it, when you were smashing through a rock garden, it didn't didn't hurt as bad. I thought it was so good. Even I talked to Steve about this from Hardtail Party, and he said the same thing. He's like,
I had 2 of the Chameleon 7s, the previous gen to what's out today. And that bike was definitely better plus.
Is that the teal one that they had, or?
So I'm trying to remember the colorways that I had, but I think one of them was teal and purple. And then what was the other color? I'll have to look on my Instagram to remember.
The one that I had was the 2019. I had that one. It was like teal, and like the letters were like a lighter grayish kind of teal. I had that one in aluminum, and then I bought the carbon Chameleon after it came out. And honestly, I like the aluminum one more.
Really? What did you like better about the aluminum one?
Well, this is kind of like an unfair thing to say, but I think I am in between a large and an extra large. And every time I try an extra large, I hate it. And when I went to the shop to buy the carbon Chameleon, I wrote down, hey, I want a large. And the guy's like, you sure you don't want an extra large? And that one sentence, I was like, all right, maybe. What the hell? I'll try it. Because I was thinking in my head, I was like, I'll be a little longer. It'll be a little more stable on the downhill stuff. And I basically just was not happy with the way that bike felt the whole time because of that little bit of change. But I feel like the main reason that I got the carbon one was because I was borrowing one of my other buddies that had a carbon bike, and when you would put my foot on the pedal, you could see how much my bottom bracket was swaying in the aluminum one, just putting my foot on the pedal. And I was like, man, that's like a lot of energy loss. And I was like, this carbon, and my buddy's carbon bike, it was an Ibis, it just felt so good. And I was like, I'm going to try the carbon. And I think that give that was on that aluminum one just made it more comfortable.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah. Because that the Santa Cruz one, I remember, like even Steve said in his review, is like super stiff.
Right.
I don't know how the new one is. I don't know if it's the same way or not. But
I have I haven't ridden the new one on a trail yet, but certainly it seems like a few of the reviews that are out there believe it to be fairly sturdy built. And I think Santa Cruz is doing that purposefully, but I just looked it up. It was green and purple was the first one, a dark green.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, it's like an army green.
Teal. Yeah, army green. So that was 2018. That
that's the same frame basically as I had then. It was just
the Chameleon 7 went 18 to whatever 21, 2020, something like that.
Yeah. So my friends and I, we've been, or maybe not my friends. It was just me actually. I was joking that the new Santa Cruzes. You notice how big the down tube is on the Bronson?
Yeah, it's huge.
Right. So I've been making this joke to people that I think that they're just slowly making their down tube on their analog bikes bigger so that one day you're like, you can't tell the difference between that and an e-bike. So you'll just be like, well, I don't know, because like
that may be a secondary benefit, but I gotta imagine there's another reason.
Just humor me, man.
well, what I don't understand, maybe this is patent related or something. It can't be, because there's a bunch of brands that have done it. But when you have these big down tubes that are on bikes, like that Bronson, for instance, they've got to figure out how to do frame storage. And so I didn't have frame storage on a mountain bike until this past year. And I feel like it was back when dropper posts first came out. You know, when dropper posts first came out, I had this Remedy, which was a 27.5 back then, but a Trek Remedy. And I pulled off the dropper post because I said, this is heavy and stupid. Why would I ever ride with this? And put a carbon post in.
Oh, wow.
And then when I finally got a bike that I just was too lazy to pull the dropper post out of, I went, holy crap, why have I been doing this for a year or two?
Right.
And so anyways, last year I bought the new stump jumper frame, did a build up because you just couldn't buy a complete bike, or it seemed next to impossible. So I did a build from a frame, and that had internal frame storage. And it's like, whatever, never needed this before. But that's a requirement to buy a bike now. Because like, it was so nice to put everything in that little burrito roll, throw it into the down tube of the bike, and not think about it again. Because I have a rule that like sub 10-mile rides, I simply don't bring anything with me. Because the worst case is it's a 5-mile walk is what I tell myself. Right. And now, like, even when I'm going out with the dog, there's a place nearby my house that there's this 6-mile loop that I can knock out in 45 minutes. So I can do it either before work or after, get the dog exercise. Like, I would never bring a thing. And now the bike has it. So if I do break a chain, or if I do get a flat, like, life's going to be okay. And then when you go on a long ride and you don't have to wear a hip pack, or you don't have to put something in your jersey, it's so nice. And it's just like this small luxury that I just don't understand why everyone doesn't do just yet.
Because that's like Specialized. I think Trek, they're like the only two that have a little SWAT box or whatever you want to call it, right?
No, yeah, well, that's most of my exposure. I'm surprised there's not more brands that do it.
Those are the only two I know of. Like, hey, anybody in the comments, throw it up if you know another bike that has a storage spot other than those two. I feel like it's just Trek and Specialized. But I agree with you. Like, why is that not a standard? You know what I mean? So I've never really like messed around with one of those. So when you open up that door, the whole tube is open, or is there like a compartment only?
So the Specialized ones, when it first came out, there was a compartment, I guess is the wrong word, because there was just a floor is the right word, down where the bottom bracket was.
So it kept it from like going down to the
exactly, but it was basically infinite going up the tube. And now, because everyone's jumped onto the threaded bottom bracket is the only way you can buy a bike thing. With that, they no longer have to worry about stuff going down and interfering with the crank. And so most of them are totally free now. And so
wow.
like the stump jumper, you could stuff whatever. I mean, you
Yeah,
could just
just put
keep
whatever you
filling
want
it.
in there.
Yeah, just keep shoving. And you know, the nice thing with like the newest stump jumper is they were one of the first like mainline brands to finally go to sleeves for your internal cable routing.
Yeah.
Because most bikes, it's either a mess or you've got zip
Yeah.
ties that you have to put together, whatever.
Yeah.
And so with the sleeves, I mean, you can literally just fill it with stuff and it's
Right.
not going to interfere with anything. And
Right.
like I've got, it's supposedly showing up on the 28th, but I have a Trek Top Fuel, their kind of downcountry bike that I sort of made fun of when I did a video on it, and I've subsequently fallen in love with it, so I bought one. But
Yeah.
but anyways, that's coming in, and I wanted an aluminum kind of secondary bike to build up this year, and I specifically chose that both because the travel numbers are right for what I wanted, but it's the only aluminum bike I could find with a storage box.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, it's funny, that's become a necessary
Yeah,
after
no, it
having it
makes a
1
lot of
year.
sense, man. It's like, why not do that? I mean, especially like,
Well, you got the space. I mean, it's
yeah.
just an empty hole. Why can't you put stuff in it?
Well, and like I've gone through this thing in the last year or so. It was basically when I bought the Chameleon. I
Yeah.
started getting away from wearing a camelback. I didn't want to ride with a hip pack, and I just wanted to like carry everything on my bike. So when I got the Chameleon, I bought like a tube strap with, and some matchy Pedros, and
Yeah,
then it
cool.
was like, oh, I bought the one up pump that you can put the tool inside of, and then basically I was carrying everything, and I just needed to have 2 bottles,
Right.
and I was carrying everything, and exactly everything that you said, which I would have argued with you about, like old Camelback me would have been
Right.
like, dude, the backpack does not bother me at all. I don't really care about not wearing it. I could go on and on and on what my argument would be, right?
Right.
And but now riding without it, it's like I can't tell you how many times I've accidentally not gone out with enough water just because I'm like
Sure.
so accustomed to not riding with everything. Now I have a hip pack, which I've been talking to people about on the podcast for the last few weeks.
Yep.
If you guys want to get a discount on a Lab Ulster, hit one of my last couple of podcasts. That hip pack, I love it. It's
Yeah.
like, but it's just 2 bottles. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And there's some storage in there, but honestly, it's like low maintenance, just 2 bottles. And with that, I can have those 2 bottles and then the 2 on my bike, and I have just as much water as I was carrying a Camelback.
Right.
If not more, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got plenty though.
Yeah. And it is so nice. Exactly what you said. Just grab the bike and freaking go, and everything you have is on there. So like if that stuff was all inside, I feel like putting like the tube and the tire levers like down in my top bottom, like my down tube, and maybe even my tool, like it's putting that weight lower and like in your bike, which is actually going to like actually help it corner better and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like, I mean, it's not like it like dramatically different, but
Well, it's
I
not
know
going to make it worse. Yeah.
right. It's like it's a better place to have the weight is what I'm
Right.
getting at, and to be able to just forget about it, that would be rad. That would be really rad, and not have to see it,
Right.
like, yeah, the tube strap kind of looks like makes you look enduro cool, on Instagram, but if I
Well,
didn't have to have it on there, I would much rather not have it on there.
the not seeing it is so true. So I'm pretty vain when I take photos of my bikes out on the trail or whatever. Most of the time I'll pull the Garmin off, I'll pull the saddle bag or the frame bag, whatever I put on there. And I literally will strip a bike in the middle of the trail just to take a stupid photo of, and then put stuff back on.
Oh, I'm way
and
too lazy for
now
that.
that's totally gone. It's great.
Yeah, I'm way too lazy for that. What do you think about the this? I think is sexy as hell. The new ones, I think Scott. Oh, by the way, before I forget, somebody in the comments said that the Rayon, the Orbea,
Yeah.
Rallon. I think they say it funny though. Isn't it like, don't they say like Rayun or something like that? I don't know.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Like I it's like one of those elitist names. You know, if I say Rowland, people are going to be like, no. So, anyways, they said the Orbea does have the storage box.
Yeah.
But
I hope it's something they add to more things.
Yeah, I feel like 100%, especially like on like road bikes, gravel bikes. You know, like
Right.
why have this stupid little bag back there? You know, and those things are like your road tube.
All right. So I feel differently about that. So I have a double standard here on road bikes. It's stupid. So here's a couple of reasons. Like if you take the frame door and all the subsequent hardware and you pull it off of like one of these new Trek Domani road bikes, a great endurance road bike, does a whole bunch of things. I'd have to look back on one of my videos, but I broke down where the weight came from because that bike is kind of heavy. It's a little heavy by road bike standards. And yeah, Spanish, not elitist. That's pretty good.
Sounds elitist to me, man.
but anyways, it added something like I'm making this up right now, but 240 grams or something to the frame weight, which doesn't sound like a lot, but 455 grams in a pound, so a little more than half a pound.
For a weight weenie, that's a lot,
right? Well, where it's really a lot is if you think about that. Right. So you're adding 250 grams. A saddlebag is 90 grams, maybe. So what you're doing is you're really affecting over 10% of the weight of that frame by putting a stupid little door.
Yeah.
Now this is different on a mountain bike because you have a dropper post.
Right.
You don't have that capability. You also do want the weight lower, and maybe you do on a road bike. Yeah. But I don't know. I've got a little bit of a double standard there. And truth be told, I don't own a road bike with that storage thing, so it could easily change when I do buy one that has a storage thing.
We'll have to see, man.
Yeah, I'll have to do a retraction.
I'm intrigued, man. I want my road bike or my gravel bike just to look freaking sexy, and I don't feel like it looks sexy with that bag on it. You know what I mean? Like I just want that thing just to look like, hey, just grab it and go, man. You know? So I don't know. We'll see.
The road bike, you can also throw stuff in your jersey. Yeah. I've got one SRAM used to sell this neoprene bag. It was almost like the thick material you'd get on a wetsuit, but it was just enough space to throw in a tube, a thing of patches, 2 CO2s, your CO2 head, 1 lever, and a tiny multi-tool, and it goes together, and it's smaller than your cell phone's outline, but maybe 3 times.
I think I know what product you're talking about.
And it would just drop into my jersey. And when SRAM discontinued that, I bought like a dozen of them, and I'm going to be so sad when the last one finally tears through because they do get worn out. But that little thing I can grab, it's just a hunk of stuff, throw it into the jersey, and it just works.
Yeah, I don't wear jerseys. I'm like vehemently against like road gear. But
I like being wrapped up like a sausage. It's fun.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to me. I'm just like I just won't do it. But I totally understand where you're coming from. 100%. I did have one of those jerseys at one point that somebody gave me, and I remember thinking, "Oh wow, these pockets are kind of handy." So, but so what I was going to say before we got sidetracked was the SWAT box or whatever you want to call it, the storage compartment is really rad.
Yeah.
But tell me, like Scott putting the rear shock in the frame isn't sexy as hell.
It is. I feel bad for the mechanic who plans on working on it.
Yeah. No, I definitely like there's a lot of things that I don't like about it, and that's one of them. Like you can't like easily see the shock or get like even the Bronson, like the way that they have it all tucked in there. You can't even see if you're blowing through your suspension or not. Sure. Like you just know by feeling, and that's it. Like there's some things that yes I don't like, but man, that bike looks sexy like that.
Dude, it does look good.
Yeah,
I like the packaging they're doing to that stuff now.
Yeah. I'm wondering how much more of that you see, because didn't Trek do something a while ago where I want to say it was like they had their shock like built into the frame, and the actual like the frame was like the pivot point or something like that. It's like
Yeah,
the Spark or
they
something like
still do
that.
that on their Super Caliber. So
Yeah.
the Super Caliber is their like XC race bike. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
100 mils up front and it's
Yeah.
60 in the rear. And
Yeah.
so they have a shock that is structurally integrated, and so the
Yeah.
whole swing arm kind of goes through the top tube.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean that and the way that Scott is doing it and a few of the other new ways give that opportunity for the second water bottle,
Yeah.
which that is just ultimate on an XC bike. I mean,
Right.
to be able to carry 2 water bottles is huge.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I mean, even on some of the enduro bikes, you can't put them. My Bronson only has one water bottle cage.
Yeah, pretty much all, or the average full suspension doesn't, because you
Yeah.
need somewhere to put the shock and the linkage and all that junk going on.
Yeah, I ended up zip tying one of those what's it called? The Fidlock magnets
Sure.
on my top tube, like right next to my seat.
Yeah, click right in.
Yeah. So, and for the most part, because I used to have it like on the bottom on the down tube, like because you could just put it on down there. And what is nice down there, but I don't know, just like got mud all over it and stuff like that. It was kind of a pain to get to. And that one, like right there on the top tube, while I'm climbing or whatever, it's super easy just to reach, right between your legs and grab it, take a drink,
Yeah.
put it back. But the downside is the way that the Fidlock works, it works by twisting. And when you're straddling your frame, sometimes you'd be like standing on the side of the trail and you'll just like, whoop, drop it on the ground. You're like, oh, I just pushed it off, like I haven't had it like fall out because I was like out of the saddle or something like that pedaling.
Yeah.
But there's been a few times on the trail where I'm like, man, I could see me not paying attention enough to like actually lose my bottle.
Well, at the risk of pointing out something obvious, the trick with the down tube water bottle, or the one that goes underneath, is you pour that bottle into your other one.
Yeah.
So you get at one point and you swap them over, and it's fine.
Yeah. No, I do that. I also have this guy sent me some stuff here. I'm going to show it to the people that are
Yeah. Let's check it out.
This guy from Original Free Range, and he
Yeah.
makes a bunch of neoprene kind of stuff like what you were talking about, but
Oh, cool.
it's not like just like
cover.
a little neoprene lid or cap that you can like just, this bottle doesn't have a cap on it, but you just slide it right over and then you're not getting mud on on it at all. And he also makes like a little pouch. This one here is actually on this bottle that'll carry a beer bottle, like a beer can. You can like zip it to your frame. And then he had another one too that was a strap. It looks kind of like a tube strap, but you can strap an extra bottle to your bike. And that I used for a long time until I started using the Fidlock system. And because then you don't have to buy another bottle.
Right.
Like the Fidlock system sucks because it's like those bottles are like $40 or something like that. It's like stupid, And honestly, they're not that great of bottles. Like to be dead honest, they don't have insulation on them or anything.
Right.
And I the thing I liked about it too was like the same idea as the Fidlock is when you don't have the bottle in there, it doesn't look like you have a bottle cage.
Right.
And with that strap, it was the same thing. It was like when I was not using the strap, I just didn't have it on the bike. So that was I really like that. Actually, I'm going to start using that thing again. I forgot all about
it. Rekindling a romance with it.
Yeah, I am. Because, man, I don't like the way I have that Fidlock magnet on my top tube. I bought some like, either way, it's on there with zip ties, right? It just doesn't look good. Like it just looks dumb, dude. It looks like it's serving a purpose and it's doing it well, but it doesn't make the bike look sexy on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Which honestly is half of the reason we're doing it.
Right.
To have a nice looking bike, something to get you excited when you see it.
Yeah, totally. Man, I'm taking that damn thing off tonight, man. That's it.
There you go.
Yeah. Have you had anything fail on you lately?
That's a good question. I don't think so. The most
I'll tell a story while you think about it.
Yeah, please.
Today, like I told you, the lady was she was doing some shuttle runs for me after we walked the dog.
Yeah.
And coming down this trail. I'm freaking hauling balls, and it's one of those runs where you're like, dude, this is a PR run. Like, like the flat pedally spots where you come through and you're just out of the saddle and you're like, oh, I'm laying it down.
Yep.
This is awesome. And I got to about the last 100 yards of the trail and I pulled my brakes, and all of a sudden it was like, it made that noise where I'm like, one of two things just happened. My brake pads are completely gone, or this rotor just like fell apart. You know what I mean? Because like that was like definitely metal to metal. And I'm like, so I pulled it and I'm like, okay, well, there was kind of like a little pedally section right there. And I was like, okay, well, even if it's metal to metal, I'm feeling this run right now. And I know metal to metal will still like work-ish.
Yeah, enough.
So I'm just going to keep giving it, So I came through the pedally spot and I went down to the next downhill little like whoop-de-whoop. And I pulled the brake again. And it was this time it just went straight to the bar. And it was like, oh yeah, it's gone, dude.
Yeah.
And holy shit, there is definitely a moment when you have no brakes and you're like, oh my God, this is really bad. So
man.
I haven't had a chance to take them apart yet. I don't even know if it was like the brake. It's like, I'm pretty sure I probably ran out of pad. You know what I mean? Like where I haven't been checking it,
Well,
that's what I'm guessing. But when I looked, I just took a glimpse at the bike right before we started, and it looks like there's mineral oil all over the brake. So I'm wondering if the like caliper failed or something. I don't know.
Yeah, one of the seals around the piston.
Yeah.
What brakes are they?
They're Saints, so it's not like they're shitty brakes,
Yeah, well, the Saints use a ceramic piston, right?
Yeah.
There's a chance that could have cracked.
Yeah.
Maybe you've been hauling too much ass.
Yeah, well, there's a good chance of that, or it's just stopping like a big fat dude way more than what it's engineered for.
Well, that happens.
One or the other. Yeah. So how do you think anything that died on you recently?
Yeah. So I think the only thing that's died somewhat recently, and this was a surprise, was the clutch mechanism on an SLX derailleur.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean, I've seen them get sticky, and you do service on them occasionally and stuff like that. But one actually killed a ride last summer because what would end up happening is I guess it had gotten too rusty from too much water and me maybe not cleaning it out like I should have. But the band that goes around the barrel that rotates on the B knuckle there, that knuckle had gotten rusted over. And so the barrel object that goes on top was not rotating freely. There's some roller bearings inside of it.
Yeah.
And when the band tightens up, when you turn the clutch on, it pushes those roller bearings in and kind of creates a one-way roll that it can do.
Yeah.
That's essentially how they work. And so anyways, I was out on a ride and I was hearing a ton of chain slap, and you just don't get that on a modern drivetrain. They're all quiet now, and didn't think much of it until I went down and I dropped the chain, which is the first time I've done that in a long time. I mean, they just stay on now. And so anyways, the derailleur was totally kicked out and just stuck. And so what was happening was when I was advancing up the cassette, the cage would start to lengthen out, right?
Right.
And then when you would go back down on the gears, the cage wouldn't return. So you'd lose tension on the chain. And that ended up being pretty crappy. I was at Leominster State Forest, which is a ways from my house, but it's also one of these places where there's not really an easy way to get back. And so ended up having to select the gear and kind of shove the cage of the derailleur back into place. But it made for a good video. The first time I've had to like sand down that post that comes off of the knuckle to like get it clean enough for it to work again.
I had a derailleur not too long ago where it just kind of like, I didn't know how like, even after listening to you, I kind of like was like, I just saw like math signs coming out of the screen.
There you go.
I don't really know how they work, but I just assumed that there was some kind of spring in there or something like that. And I had a derailleur that it wasn't keeping tension anymore.
Yeah.
But it was on a bike that had a lot of miles on it. I just assumed like, okay, with derailleur shot. So I didn't even think about like trying to maintain.
I'm running on a couple of bikes, the new Microshift Advent X stuff. They're like their play at a Deore level kind of drivetrain. And when you say springs, so the way SRAM and the Shimano ones work, they're not springs. But what's really neat is the microshift is it's like literally a tiny hub inside of that knuckle. When you push them forward, they've got springs and pawls, just like a hub does. And it legit ratchets. And so when you move it back and forth, it click, click, click as it goes forward. And then when you let go, because it's in place, then the friction on that barrel then rotates back. And it's actually a really cool mechanism.
Yeah, I was just thinking that's like a pretty ingenious design, to tell you the truth. Like,
yeah, well, I gotta imagine it's pretty durable. The Shimano ones, they need service, and you buy new bands and barrels, and you should replace those occasionally. And the SRAM ones basically just break, and then you buy a new derailleur. They have a longer maintenance schedule, but that microshift is kind of a neat design. I'm actually really surprised at some of the stuff they're putting out now.
Yeah. I'm surprised nobody else has gone for the wireless dropper.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised that there's not somebody else doing
that. Does Magora do that? I thought there was another. Maybe I'm wrong.
I feel like I really want a wireless dropper, but SRAM doesn't make a 200.
Yeah, the Viron Elect. Well, anyways, I mean, you're not wrong.
You got the website out. Do they make it 200?
Let me take a look.
If they make it 200.
150, 125, and 100.
Lame.
Yeah, XC bikes.
Yeah, I want a 200. I think SRAM's biggest is like 170 or something like that. But like, I feel like Fox has got to have like something up their sleeve. I mean, I can understand it's like an R&D like cost thing, you know. So like, who else is going to be able to go neck and neck with SRAM? It's got to be Fox, right?
Yeah, well, maybe
Fox,
that's the next thing
Fox
on
have
them.
a 200 regular either, though.
Yeah.
I think their transfer, the biggest is like a 175 or something like that.
Like, I guess I'll ask you this: like, what makes you feel like you need 200?
Oh God, I'm tall, dude.
Yeah, well, right, but I don't know. Not being as tall as you, like I can fit a 170 in some of the bikes I have, but I've always chose to go back to 150s simply because I feel like the dropper gets out of the way enough, but it's still close enough to my knees that I can drive the way the bike's going through my legs. And so all the droppers that I like, most of my bikes, I can add that extra amount and get the post further in. But I've never felt like I needed it.
I want it out of, I want my drop. I want to push the button and the dropper folds up like Inspector Gadget and goes into the frame. Yes.
No more C post.
No more. And the funny thing is like the first time my very first dropper, I think was like a 100 or a 125. And I remember feeling like, where the hell did the seat go? Like it was like, it scared me, like, cause I would use that as like an extra like point of like another touch point or something, you know, like you'd pinch it a little bit, or like that's kind of how you help control your bike. But as I rode with the dropper more, I want it like gone. Like I don't want my shorts to be anywhere close to being possibly getting like hung on it, or like, and I'll say I have a 210 on the tall boy, and I've contemplated going back to a 200 just because when I have it drop down all the way and I'm wearing a fanny pack or that hip pack that I wear, I actually have to like lean forward a little bit when I drop it all the way, so I don't drive my hip pack on the tire.
Yeah, right.
But I still like as low as it is. And whenever I'm not wearing the hip pack, then it's not a problem, right? I like that seat to be as gone as it possibly can. And a 170 is still like gets in my way. That's the best way that I can explain it. It's like not like dramatically, but it gets in my way.
So. Well, that's fair. I just wonder what their like distribution curve is, and maybe that's why not too many people are making it. You know, the one-ups and the PNWs of the world, they're figuring out how to capitalize.
Yeah, I mean, One Up just brought out a 240, which is
I know,
insane. But I get that though, for the guys that are like, somebody has to make a dropper for the people that are like 6'6".
Yeah.
riding an extra large frame. Like most bike companies don't make an XXL. I think Santa Cruz does. There's a few that probably others that do, but not many. So like when you're a really tall person, like a 170, most bikes come with a 150. Like you could have that 150 like up as high as it goes
at the minimum insertion point, and it's still not tall enough.
Right. And then like when you're dropping it, like is it really is it not out? It's not really out of the way. It's like still like at like full like power band height for like everybody else. You know what I mean? Like I would imagine you're like probably hitting your chest on it or something, you know, like you know what I'm saying? Like it's getting in the way of your body elsewise or elsewhere.
I had a 30 millimeter dropper post on a gravel bike, and that was the greatest exercise in uselessness, because 30 millimeters is not actually enough to get behind the bike. It was just enough to have like one more thing on your handlebar and like just one more thing going on. And I could see that if you're really tall, that, not being able to get that all out of the way would be a problem.
I want to build a new gravel bike, and I really want, I've heard that you can use the front derailleur shifter to actuate your dropper.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I want to build one like that, or like following up to that. Why has there not been a company like they just like brought it out that way?
Yeah,
like it's specifically for that. You know what I mean? Like, here, drop your dropper right there. It's not like gravel bikes are not highly being used all over the place. I don't know. Does it make sense to have your dropper button on a gravel bike up on the top of the drop bars?
Well, probably not. I mean, if you're going through something technical, wouldn't you think your hands would be near where the brakes are?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I think you're onto something. I mean, I've seen a bunch of brands make these little band ones that kind of go just below where the lever clamp is, and so you can push on that. But you might as well have it in the shifter.
Yeah. Well, and like so many like gravel bikes or road, like they're going 1x2, and so at least where I live, we don't have a lot of hills, and I have a 2x on my gravel bike. I'm pretty much never use the other. Like the only time I use my smaller cog is when my legs are like dusted and I actually like accidentally shifted down to it and didn't realize it, you know. But maybe that's just me. I don't ride a lot of hills. We ride a lot, like right here in Sacramento where I live is pretty flat. So maybe I would use the gears more if I actually used it more for what it's used for. But most of the time, like even when I've ridden it on some like light trail stuff that we have around, I usually don't drop into the other gear. It's just get out of the saddle and hammer up some hill, and you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. On a gravel bike, it makes little sense to have the 2x. Although, the only time that, at least in my experience, that you really notice it is when you're riding with somebody who does have a 2x.
Yeah.
And like if you're riding with them and you've got this section of road or whatever, what ends up happening is they can get that half gear in between that is just too hard or too easy for you.
Yeah.
Right. And then you get out there. But otherwise, I mean, never notice it. In the last couple of gravel bikes I've built, I've done the 1x mostly just for the chainring clearance.
Yeah.
That big ring just gets destroyed when you're kind of trying to hop over a log or whatever that's out on the trail that you're on.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, gravel riding around us is really just mountain bike trails.
Yeah.
like you find the most passable trail, and that's what you use. I was out in Utah this past I forget what month, but end of last season, I went out for an event, and I got to go on this gravel ride where I borrowed a giant Revolt gravel bike. And it's the first time in my life that I've legitimate road gravel. Like it was 20 miles or something of nice, packed, beautiful gravel through this like valley between two little mountains. And I'm like, holy crap. People who live around this really must enjoy this. Gravel bike makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
Previously, gravel bike was so I felt good about a road ride, not because it was actually enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how I use mine. We have this trail next to one of the rivers here in Sacramento it's like 35 miles long, but it's paved.
Yeah.
And basically we ride road on that or gravel or whatever. But there's some little like single track offshoots that go next to it and kind of come back, and they're not technical or anything, but you wouldn't want to do it on a road bike, so it's kind of cool to have that little bit of, like, let's just call it tire suspension for it. So, but
Sure,
dude, it's been 2 hours, man. It's freaking super
flew
fun
by.
chatting with you. Yeah. Had a great, thanks so much for coming. And I mean, we didn't talk about your channel much, but it was a great conversation, dude. I think we had a good time. People understand you got some knowledge, some bike knowledge. Definitely check out his channel.
Yeah, please do.
I always ask people at the end of the show what YouTube channels they watch, whether it's mountain biking or not, just because it's interesting to like find something new. Maybe you got a basket weaving channel we're going to be in love with or something. What do you like to watch?
Yeah. So let's start with cycling related.
Okay.
On the cycling related side, I watch a channel called Kev Central. It's a dude that I think does a real good job of like cheap budget, like sometimes
I 100% hear
stuff.
About.
He does a great job. I've recently started following a guy down in Florida called GC Performance.
Okay.
He's feels like he might have taken some inspiration from my channel. He's got a similar profile. I don't know if he did, but his is basically what I do, but better and on road bikes.
Oh, nice.
So I enjoy watching it because he showcases some really cool road bikes. Seems like an interesting fella, and I don't know how long he's been doing it, but in the last 2 years, he's just gone from doing okay to like his stuff is really good. So
nice.
fun to watch if you want to check out some road bikes there.
Yeah.
So that's the majority of kind of the cycling related. Of course, I come across some other channels, Hardtail Party, yours, things like that for some riding type vlogs. But I'm not that big into watching trail videos for whatever reason. Yeah. So outside of that, watch DDE, which is a Daily Driven's Exotics. It's kind of adult men being hooligans in cars that I wish I could afford, which is pretty fun to watch. The Doug DeMuro stuff, Stradman, and then Go to Sleep, the Lockpicking Lawyer. You throw that on YouTube.
I just watched
2 minutes and you're out. Oh. Yeah.
Dude, I just watched one of his the other day, and like the algorithm was like, "Oh, you like these?" Now I'm like, that's all I'm getting on my like what it's like recommending for me. I'm like, oh god, I just wanted to watch that one. I don't know what.
Yeah.
It's super interesting though.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, you're just making me remember the other one that I got into somewhat recently is this guy Kevin Talbot, who's maybe like the Seth Bike Hacks of remote control cars.
Oh, okay.
He seems to make even the most mundane things entertaining to watch. As long as you like watching a lunatic play with toys. It's pretty good. Right. Yeah.
So he's making his dog an omelet, and you're going, why did I just watch that?
Yeah, exactly. But I liked it for some reason.
Yeah, it was so fun, man. Right on, dude. Well, like I said a minute ago, dude, I really appreciate you coming on the show with me. That was super rad. It's been a good time chatting. I had a great conversation. If you guys have not checked out James the Bike Guy, go check him out. You can do jamesbikeguy.com, or you can just do James the Bike Guy on YouTube or Instagram. You can find him all over the place. So go ahead and do that. Check him out. It's down there in the show more. If you're on YouTube, you can just click the link. You don't even have to type it in the browser. Imagine that. If you are watching this and you still haven't hit the subscribe or the thumbs up, you're doing it wrong. So do those two things. It really means a lot to me. It helps me keep motivated. I really appreciate it if you would do that. I'm just asking. It's a simple little task. Just do that one thing. The one thing that I said I like all the other YouTubers do that I can't stand. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm asking you
to do it so he doesn't have to say it again.
Exactly. Make the number grow. When I see that number going up, I'm like super stoked about it. Anyways, I think next week is going to be, I hate doing this. I usually never do this, but I think I need to start doing this. Next week is Fastco bars. They have those handlebars that got like a little, like they bend. They're like bendy handlebars. So those guys are going to be on next week. And the week after that, I'm going to Sedona, so probably no show. But stay tuned, guys. Hit the subscribe button. I want you guys to remember one thing, though. It only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one.